Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's the Pregame Show Network. We'll call this an early edition of the Rewind because sometimes we just have news that is just percolating to a degree that we have to get to it. What's up, everybody? I'm Tolly Carr in Atlanta, Georgia, the HBCU Game Day Studios. We'll be joined by our guy, Uncle Neely, in just a moment. And, you know, we like to keep it real here. Guys, look, I'm straight out of church. I just took my tie off. Neely called me, and then Neely was like, hey, man, like, we got something we got to get to. He said, can we do it? I was like, Neely, I am on the way. Neely, so I just ripped the tie off, man. It's super cash here as we get ready to get into it and give the people what they want, which is more content on the Pregame Show Network. Neely, one of the things that was popping that we'll just jump right into, the press conference this past week with Deion Sanders and a reporter from the Denver Post, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, let's do this. Let's play it. Let's play the exchange so the fans can hear it in case they missed it, and then we'll come back and talk about it.
Couple more, Sean.
Coach Sean Keeler, the Denver Post. Happy summer, my man.
You don't like us, man. Why do you do this to yourself?
Come on.
You don't like us.
Mark likes me, by the way.
Huh?
Yeah, Mark said he likes me.
No,
so
but
that's
you
one.
don't. Why do you do this, though?
No, I'm sorry. Two-parter if I could.
No, I'm serious. Why do you do this? Like, you know you don't. Like, why do you do this?
No, it's not about that. Football question. Football question.
Why do you do this? Like, it would be hard for me to really engage in someone I don't like or something I don't like. I'm just asking why. Like, why?
Gotta pay
What
the bills,
did I do?
You didn't do anything. It's not about that. But this is a football
why?
question.
I'm asking you why.
Yeah, you can answer. That's
Okay,
not
answer
your
me.
business.
Because you want me to answer you. So
Yeah, okay, that's fine. That's fair.
Why?
Why? Because I have
Give me
questions.
your why.
What's your why? What do you want to know?
Why do you always on attack? Like, what did we do?
Where am I on attack today? Where am I on attack?
Yeah, I'm not gonna give you opportunities to be on attack. But I'm asking you why. Like, what does it do for you? Like, what happened?
It's not about me.
But what happened to get you like this?
It's a good question.
No, I'm serious. Because I want to help. No, I'm serious. I want to help. Because it's not normal.
We can talk about that.
Okay.
Can I ask you a football question?
No,
Seriously.
No, we'll talk about that. When we talk about that, I'll talk about that with you.
Can we ask you a football question, please?
When I talk about that, we talk about that. We can talk about that.
I have a question over here.
Let's go.
Okay, Neely. So a little therapy session broke out in the Q&A. We have seen Coach Prime in the past. If he has an issue with you or your organization, he's not one to passively, aggressively keep it to himself, or he just puts it all out on Front Street. Give us some backstory. What's the rub here with the Denver Post and Coach Prime?
Well, I think the rub is just it's enough is enough. And before I categorize it as a Coach Prime Denver Post issue, let me push back on that and say that it's really a Sean Keeler issue, which is the reporter that the exchange was had with. Since we have been in Boulder, Colorado, going on 18 months now, every time there's a question from him, every time there's a response from him, it always has a negative slant or pushing toward an attack, if you will, an accusation. Everyone else asks their questions. He always slants his questions to some kind of bad news or something's going wrong, or you're hiding something from us, or just that kind of thing. So there's always been a sense in the room that this guy that sits in the same spot, really across from me during the regular press conferences, is just there as an antagonist. He's not really there, in support of Coach Prime or the program, or to get the truth out. Because one thing Coach Prime tell you, if you're a journalist, you don't have to agree with him. He's not looking for people to just be, yes men and women and rubber stamp what he's doing. Ask tough questions, ask challenging questions. But that's not what happens in this case. And I think after weeks and weeks and months of this, Coach Prime just got to a point on his birthday, a day that he'd also become a grandfather, and just said, hey, man, why? Why do you do this? Why are you here? Why, when you know you don't like us, you don't like this program, why do you come every day and ask the questions the way you do? Never raised his voice, never attacked him, never called him out of his name or anything personal like that, just simply trying to help him figure out, how did you get where you are and how can we get you out of that space?
And he almost offered a bit of a be a culpa there, Neely, where he was like, I don't know. That's a good question.
He certainly did. It took a deep sigh before he did it.
That's how my wife. That's how my wife does me, Neely. Just gets me trapped up in the corner.
Yeah, he had no way out. I really think it was about to be a come to the altar, and he got right there too, where he could touch the altar and turn around. And this is the same reporter who was accused Coach Prime of being a false prophet, by the way. But when you get before that, about 31 seconds in, Tolly, he admits, I got to pay my bills. Coach Prime asked him, like, why are you like this? Why do you do this? And, there's a segment where Coach Prime is kind of talking while he's talking, but you hear him clearly say, I got to pay my bills. And so here's a guy with a reputable paper, the Denver Post, who's admitting, man, I attack you because it pays.
Well, Neely, the other thing there is, look, I've worked in the journalism field, if you will, and there are people that are just going to be the hard news reporter. They're never going to give you anything fluff because they don't want, in my opinion, they don't want to appear soft or show any signs of weakness, or everything is going to be, hey, there's something to hide, and I'm going to find it. I do understand the thought process, even though I might not agree or something that I want to do. I have seen those footsteps traveled by other people before, and probably as long as there's journalism, there will be people that follow that line of thinking. But Neely, one thing I noticed, so he had a follow-up article or an article about the news conference that day where he took some more shots, or tell us about the article.
I guess that he took the time after he got put in his place at the press conference. He took the time to go home and get some keyboard courage up and write a response. But in that response, he doubled down and tripled down and quadrupled down on some of the same things that Coach Prime has been pointing out about his questioning style, about his journalism style. Here's a guy who we've said from day one, it's not like you said, Tyler, he's just trying to ask the tough questions, get to the bottom of something. This is a guy who has never shared good news. This is a guy who's never said, good job on that game that you won. There's always something that's not good enough. There's always something negative to it. And he told on himself when he wrote his article, because he started off saying, hey, look, Deion Sanders came in mad, angry black man. He realized he's going to be 5-7, and he lashed out at me. And he goes on to double down on some of the nonsense he's been saying over the past year and a half. I just think that it's misplaced. I think it's immature. I don't think it qualifies as journalism. And then to start calling Deion Sanders Coach Prime, what do we call him? Deposition Deion. And I think what you have to draw the correlation there is when you look at these videos out there that he was alluding to where Coach Prime was participating in a deposition, here's the commonality in those two things. There's a white guy asking a black guy questions, and the black guy is letting the world know, I do not have to answer you if you're not treating me with the respect I've earned. And so here's this white privilege rearing its ugly head once again, that you have a reporter who's going to accuse you of being negative, accuse you of being a sore loser, accuse you of being mad, accuse you of everything under the sun instead of accepting what they did to create it. Coach Prime was not angry. He was not mad. He was calmly having discussion. But when you write your article, for the people who didn't see the video, you characterize it as here's this angry black guy attacking everybody in the room because he's mad because he's going to lose this season.
Neely, let me ask you this: What do you think is acceptable for how a head coach wields his power at the podium? This is nothing new. We have seen Nick Saban in the past, the local media there in Tuscaloosa. They were afraid of Coach Saban. That's well known. He wielded his power there at the microphone. Where do you put the boundaries for a coach's responsibility and his ability to let people know that don't really rock with him?
I think we have it's not really boundaries, Tolly. I think it just has to be a level of respect that you afford people just generally as human beings, that you don't ask them of something that you're unwilling to do yourself. Example, Coach Prime was trying to ask this gentleman a question, and he kept refusing to answer. And then when Coach Prime said, hey, well, how do you think you can ask me something, but I can't ask you something? And his response was, and this was about 41 seconds into the video, his response was, that's fair. He had to acknowledge, I don't have the right to ask you things, but not be willing to have things asked of me. And I think when you look at coaches across the board who don't look like Coach Prime, they don't get that level of disrespect from journalists that look like Sean Keeler. Take it back to Jackson State in the SWAC days. Remember Coach Prime's first SWAC media day, there was a white reporter who called him Deion. And Coach Prime said, hey, I don't think you would call Nick Saban Nick. You would call him Coach Saban or Mr. Saban. So give me the same respect. The reporter laughs it off and says, okay, yeah, but answer me this, Deion. And so he gets up and walks off because it wasn't about boundaries. It was about respect. Here's this, Tolly. Let's go back to the beginning of this press conference and the exchange with Sean Keeler. Everybody in that room knew that today was Coach Prime's birthday. Other reporters had opened up their question with happy birthday to him. There was honey buns on the table for him. Everybody in the room knew. He didn't open up and say happy birthday. He said happy summer. He always goes out of his way to get some kind of dig in. I think that maybe there was some high profile athlete in his high school that took his girl or something. And the only way he can fight back is with the keyboard, being in middle age now. But whatever it is, he has some personal gripe with Deion Sanders and the way he coaches, and he makes it everything about that instead of what it really is. Which is why Coach Prime gave him that safe space and said, hey, man, come on, what happened to you? Where did this change come? Why are you the way you are? I want to help you. And the guy just deep sighed and said, that's a good question.
He did seem like he was on the fence, ready to touch the hem of the garment in that moment. What about the other? Now was there another reporter that kind of caught some smoke that day? I did not watch. I'm reading. I'm going back to his article. Sometimes Tolly does not watch everything on the Pregame Show Network. Lord help me. Lord help me. Every once in a while, I do miss a video. What was the deal with CBS?
That was a rather quick exchange. It was also polite and to the point. There was a gentleman recognized in the press pool. I can't think of his name, but he said, blah, blah, blah with CBS. And Coach Prime said, oh, well, CBS, no, I'm not taking anything from CBS. They know what they did. And so the guy was trying to say, well, no, I'm local, not national. And Coach Prime's like, that may be the case, but that's still your brand. You're still a CBS. I'm not taking CBS questions. Coach Prime apologized to the guy, said, I have nothing but respect for you. This is not about you. It's bigger than you. It's your parent company that I have an issue with. And until that issue is resolved, I won't be taking questions from CBS. Well, Sean Keeler, later on in his article, the one who had a kumbaya moment with Coach Prime, says in his article, I deserved what I got. I know I've done some digs and I probably deserve that, but the CBS guy didn't. So now he's trying to play Captain Save him and acting like he's stepping in the gap for somebody else. He doesn't care about this guy from CBS. He's just trying to get the heat off his butt because he knows he's been poking this bear too long with negativity. And Coach Prime still didn't respond to either one of them with negativity. It was an announcement to CBS, well, let me bring you up to speed. And then when it got to Keeler, it was an olive branch of help.
Neely, Coach Prime is unique, but a couple things before I get into a little story time, which already. We are as loyal as our options, right? Like some people don't have the power, the bravery, or a combination to, really say what they want to say in the moment. It is unique when that your brand, your ego, whatever it is that you want to throw in that equation can get up there and keep it 100, whether people like it or not.
And Coach Prime owns that space. I was telling some friends of mine this past week before this even happened, if you go back and listen to or read the eulogy of Malcolm X, which was delivered by his good friend Ossie Davis, and if you read that description of Malcolm X in his eulogy and you take out the name of Malcolm and add in Deion Sanders, it is a perfect fit. I think we're living in a space where, Coach Prime is just an example of that shining black manhood. And he is in a space where he can stand up to people and he can offer rebuttals where other folks may not have the comfort space, whether it's financial, bravery, spiritual, you name it, to do that. And so he's in a space where just because you can ask him something or you can be disrespectful to him doesn't mean that he has to take it. He is afforded the same space of respect that you are. But every time he pushes back or questions it or calls it to attention, then everybody's saying, oh, well, for a guy who doesn't care what people think about him, he's sure acting like he cares. Here's the deal. He is a human being. He deserves respect. He has earned the respect. And if you look at the times when he does push back, it's never about him. It's about the kids that he coaches. When you look at his exchange with Sean Keeler, he said, why don't you like us? What did we do to you? And he had to answer nothing. He didn't say, why don't you like me? What have I done to you? Why are you always attacking me? He was speaking from a us standpoint. Deion Sanders would take every arrow that you shoot at him every hour. But the minute you shoot at one of the kids that he's over the protection and development of, you're going to get a chin check. You're going to get an eye swole.
Neely, I've told this story here before. The very first time, that very first SWAC Media Day, I guess that was 2021? Yep. First time I met Neely in person. First time I met Coach Prime in person. And I was ready. I was ready to do the interview. They're shuffling people from station to station. There I am. I get Coach Prime mic'd up. I got the camera recording. Coach Prime looks around. He says, man, the sound in here is kind of weird. Let's do this another day. And he takes the mic off and walks away. And, I had two choices at that point. I could have been in my feelings and, been like, oh, man, Coach Prime stood me up. He ain't want to answer the real questions or whatever. Right? But I said to myself, I believe, and I don't know him well, I said, I believe he will make good on this moment. So he's kind of quirky, very quirky, different than most people you're going to know. And I don't know, Neely, maybe it was a couple of weeks later, a month later, 2 weeks later, I don't remember. But, his guy Sam called me and they hooked up a one-on-one Zoom and I got to do it in the studio and it was a much better experience, a greater interview. I got more mileage out of it than I would have in a cluster beat at SWAC Media Day. So, I just kind of rode with it and things worked out. But, I say that to say Coach Prime is quirky. But if you know how to deal with people, man, these things aren't that hard.
They're not hard at all. But you also have to understand where people are coming from. Coach Prime has worked in the media space, had just as successful journalism career with NFL Network than he had playing with the NFL, where he became a Hall of Famer. And so the environment that you were talking about, he knew it wasn't going to be the best interview for you or him because there's so many people buzzing about, so many people hanging around, so much background noise that he wanted to offer and present, hey, let's do this another way at the right time at the best time. And so we can get the best product out there for each one of us. And it wasn't a slight, and true to who he is, he made it right with you. It's the same thing with this situation in Boulder. You see other journalists who are pushing back or wanting to add their chips onto the pile and say, yeah, just like he challenged what the word chemistry mean or what the word bolster mean. Let me tell you what Deion Sanders likes to do before he answers a question. He even does it with me when I interview him. He wants to make sure that the word you're asking about means the same for both parties because he doesn't want you to go out there and he's giving you his definition of chemistry, which is a different definition of chemistry for you, and then you use it in the wrong context or manner. So someone asked about the team chemistry, and he said, okay, well, what does chemistry mean? What are we saying when we say chemistry? That wasn't an attack. Someone said, hey, has your offensive line been bolstered? He said, hey, I'm not too familiar with that word. What does bolster mean? He does that every interview he's in. He's unashamed or unembarrassed to admit he doesn't know something. And then he wants to make sure we both know the same thing before he moves on with his answer. Same situation with your interview that quote unquote didn't take place. He didn't feel it was in the best interest of either brand to do this interview in this noisy environment. And by your own testimony, it worked out better the way he planned it. But when there are people in the room, because of privilege, who refuse to admit that this Hall of Fame football player, arguably the greatest athlete of all time, certainly the greatest athlete of his position, who has accomplished more in branding and marketing than several celebrities, A-listers, athletes combined, they don't want to admit, well, he may know what he's talking about or doing in this space, but because I'm this white guy and I'm this beat reporter, I'm going to help deal with this black coach, and I'm going to talk to him the way I want to talk to him. Well, you ran into the wrong woman. You ran to Deion Sanders.
Neely is bringing the heat today. No punches pulled, no quarters given. Neely, speaking of not knowing, what does no quarters given? I've heard, and the first time I heard it, the most popular video on HBCU game day history, the little dust up between Deion Sanders and Eddie Robinson, Alabama State. You may remember that. Who's SWAC? I am SWAC. Who is SWAC? He ain't SWAC. In the post game, Eddie Robinson said, "No quarters given." I understood what he meant. I just don't know exactly what it means.
It would harken back into the days early on before we truly even had a constitution, which, by the way, didn't apply a lot to us at all in any manner, that you don't have to protect or hide people. You don't have to quarter soldiers in your house. You don't have to give them secure space. So there's no quarters given to somebody when they're an enemy or a friend. And so that's where it's derived from, no quarters given. And there you have it. So you can't hide over here.
We didn't even practice this. You just knew it. I didn't even know I was going to ask you. I thought it had something to do with quarters in your pocket, like 25 cents. Like, I ain't giving you a quarter. And you delivered. You knew exactly what that meant. Where did you learn that, Neely?
Hey, man, I'm a product of Jackson Public Schools, Jim Hill High School, and Jackson State University, where we had classes like word power that I didn't just take because it's elective. I took it because I love words, because words have meaning. And just like when Coach Prime asked a reporter, when you say chemistry, what do you mean by chemistry? Before I answer your question, it can be the same thing with quarters, because some people like to play quarters with a bottle of gin. Some people like to pitch quarters against the wall. Some people need quarters for a payphone. We got to make sure we're talking about the same thing, Tolly. And when Coach Prime pushes back and says, hey, let's get on the same page here, then white folks get mad.
Neely, I love it, man. Ooh, I love how smart you are, brother. I will say this. Interviewing Coach Prime is one of the most interesting interviews ever, because you just don't know. Because and Shador is the same exact thing. I'm so accustomed as a journalist asking people these questions where I already know what they're going to say before they answer it, because all we're doing is filling time. I got a show, man. I need a 20-second soundbite. I need a minute 30 package. I need a quote that's going to help me fill up 300 words. I already know, Coach, tell us about the effort. Oh, we gave 110%. But like, you know this. You never have any idea what Deion Sanders is going to say, how he's going to answer it, how he's going to interpret, how he's going to rework what you thought was going to be just a predictable exchange. I found that out about his son Shador the very first time I asked him a question. It's like, man, these dudes are just different. It is interesting. It's kind of fun. Like, you have to kind of be on your feet and be flexible. You just can't throw out a question and wait for them to stop talking to ask your next predictable question. You got to do your work coming into this.
So, Tolly, here's a lining in what you just painted there, because I love the way you drew that up, the juxtaposition of it, if I may. One of the things historic about journalism, about press conferences, about the media, is that the person being interviewed needed them or needs them. My message can't get out without this press tool. I can't articulate what I'm trying to say to the people about my missions, my goals, or whatever, without this group of people in front of me. They have the power. Well, over the past 30 years, 20 years, 10 years, the room has flipped. The person on the other side of the microphone has the power, because just like you said, Tolly, you're trying to fill your content. They already have their day full. So a Shador Sanders, a Deion Sanders, the players that we work with here in Colorado, the same that we did at Jackson State, we helped them recognize via their media training that the press conference doesn't take place without you. You don't have to answer anybody's questions. You don't have to feel compelled or obligated to give a response to which you don't know the answer, because it is about your brand, not theirs. And they're trying to grow their brand off of you. And you don't have to actively participate in your enemy's growth should you find somebody in the media space who doesn't have your best interest at heart. And so you get people, these new athletes, these new coaches who are brand secure in who they are, and they're not going to be handled or treated some kind of way because you have a keyboard and internet access. Because guess what? Sean Keeler can type an article, hit enter, maybe 10,000 people see it. Coach Prime can say 3 words on Instagram and 4 million people see it. The bigger brand always wins.
And there's no bigger brand in the space than the power, the network that Coach Prime has. Neely, back to the article, and I guess we can kind of close it out and bring it home here. He really, the author really stuck his flag in the idea that this is going to be a losing season for Colorado. Should that not happen, that's a big piece of humble pie that'll be waiting.
Man, absolutely. I mean, it's going to be big enough he will choke on it. Before we go totally down that road, let me give a 30,000 foot to people out there why people's personal opinions also matter in the workplace. You know, you see this a lot with race and gender, where you may not like somebody, but you claim that you can still do your job fairly, even though you don't like them. Here's a reporter who, via his antics the past 18 months, but underscored, bold-faced, and italicized in his recent article, who has clearly made it clear, I don't want Coach Prime to succeed. I don't want the Colorado Buffaloes to win. And I'm telling you, they are not. He's not basing it on individual talent. He's not basing it on the upgrade or downgrade of coaches. He is literally exclaiming his personal preferences. So, Tolly, going forward, next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, what player, what coach in this organization wants to deal with him when I know you are actively rooting against me? It's why you don't see media outlets. You don't see the beat reporter from the Cowboys, spending 2 hours with Jalen Hurts from the Philadelphia Eagles, because the beat writer from the Cowboys don't want him to win. Like, I'm not spending my energy with somebody who's against me. This guy has planted his flag. He doesn't want Coach Brown to be successful. He doesn't want these young people to be successful. He's going to be looking for any cause he can to underscore that. And he capped it off by saying Coach Prime is in fear because he knows he's only going to win 5 games. When we get to that 6th win and that 7th and 8th win, and at that 6th win, Miss Peggy is guaranteed to go to a bowl game, I want to see if he's going to still be sitting in the press pool then.
Well, we will see. Winning definitely cures a lot and shuts a lot of your critics up. They will get that opportunity coming up. Neely, it's been pretty cool, man. Look, I'm all for it. All for it. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at the battery meter. Neely, we're still on 3 out of 4. 3 out of 4. We're still at 75%. I'll try to get us plugged up before our next episode of the Rewind.
Hey, Tyler, I appreciate your time doing this today. The Rewind via the Pregame Show Network exists to recap the past week in Colorado football and the culture of Deion Sanders and all those tentacles. But sometimes things happen and you can't wait 7 days to talk about it. So we had to hop on this one real quick. And I wish you would have left your clip-on tie on. You didn't have to take that clip-on off, acting like you untied something. It was just a quick little snap that you were ready to go. And let me tell you this also, Tyler Carr. Taking the kids to church while you wait in the car or go to the grocery store is not the same thing as you personally going to church. So you start off the show saying
I did.
You went in to give them to the teacher at children's church, and then you went right back out.
I have a witness. He's been patient in the background. Noah, come here. You don't want to go?
Yeah, but you said no.
I want my son. Come here. I want him to testify on my behalf, because Neely is casting doubt and aspersions. Come here. Come around this way. America, get ready to meet Noah. Come here.
We got international viewers too. It's more than America.
All right. Did you and Daddy go to church today? Okay. Did we both go inside?
This is perfect.
Was the man yelling and he was kind of loud? All right. Say goodbye, America. Say goodbye, world. We got one on Neely. Get that hand up high. Bye-bye, everybody. All right, Niels, we're going to go out on a wide shot and give my boy some FaceTime. Say bye, everybody.
Bye, Noah.
See you next time. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us. It is the Pregame Show Network.